Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Sandra K. Johnson. I am a hidden figure, having been the first Black woman to earn a PhD in computer engineering. And I want to share with you my latest endeavor, geeRemit, which is a relationship-driven remittance mobile app focusing on Africa initially. So today there are over 200 million people living in the West who send money regularly to over 800 million families in emerging countries. And the funds are used to help them pay for goods and services and make ends meet. This is a $550 billion market in terms of funds moved. In sub-Saharan Africa, our initial target, it's a $46 billion market. And for the top 5 corridors that we plan to focus on initially shown here, it's an $8 billion market. However, there's some issues associated with remittance to sub-Saharan Africa. The fees are the most costly. The vast majority of the recipients are unbanked. They do not have credit cards or bank accounts. And in some instances, the transfers are very slow. There are some recipients who live in remote areas, and it's difficult for them to reach a pickup location. And for those who do, it's very dangerous for them to carry large amounts of money. The most significant issue that we believe is the fact that most remittance service providers do not focus on building customer loyalty. And studies have shown that those who do can increase their sales growth by 85% and their market profit margins by more than 25%, as shown here for some very well-known brands. And so that is what we focus on in geeRemit. But first, the mobile app. Users, which are our customers, initially register as a one-time registration. And then in order to transfer funds, they input the recipient's information, initiate the transfer, and then receives an acknowledgement when the transfer starts and also when it ends. Mobile money, the funds are deposited into the mobile money accounts of the recipients. This is a financial account that's associated with a mobile phone service, again, because most do not have bank accounts. It's very popular in many emerging countries. The funds are used to pay for goods and services. The focus that we have is on building the relationship with the customer. We have developed a patent-pending technology that we call lightweight remittance analytics that enables us to build this customer loyalty. We use the analytics to gain insights for multiple recurring transactions and also to dynamically enable the customer to create financial accounts and other actions that are very attractive to them. We've done some customer discovery. 97% of those we spoke to are very excited about this particular offering. We also enable the customers to donate part of the transfer fee, which is how we generate revenue, to nonprofits. And again, the customers are very excited about this possibility. I have 26 years with IBM. Part of that time I spent in the Middle East and Africa. I know that region. I use mobile money in that region and understand the culture and the importance of mobile money. Here is the rest of my team, board members, consultants, as well as advisors and mentors. The mobile app, the minimum viable product, has been developed, and we plan to launch the pilot for this MVP in about April timeframe. We plan to solicit 200 to 300 early adopters to use this. They are residents of the state of Georgia because that's where we have a license, sending to Kenya, and after a couple of months getting feedback from them, we plan to make the app generally available initially, again, to Georgia residents, and then increasing the number of states and the number of countries in which recipients live. So the second country we plan to focus on is Ghana. The ask, we are actually in the middle of a local public offering, which is a North Carolina offering. We're asking for $110,000 in investment. And the reason why is because we spent considerable time a few months ago speaking to many investors, kept getting feedback about needing market traction. So we're focusing on getting the funds to get that market traction by having the pilot and a couple of months of general availability. The details you see here are of the public offering, and I'm more than happy to share with you details for anyone who's interested. And so that is geeRemit, a relationship-driven remittance mobile app for Africa. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have about this matter. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Sandra. That was a great job on that presentation. And now we're going to go on to Chris and Rob for feedback and questions.
Okay.
Awesome. You want to start this time, Rob?
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. Sandra, nice job. I stayed in the 5 minutes and very, very well spoken. Let's see where to start. So everybody knows that, I kind of have my 8 things that I look for in a pitch. I think you hit 5 of them. And that was team, market, problem you're solving. You did touch on revenue model, although about transaction fees, although I would have liked to have understood some more detail there, exactly how you make money. And you also have your ask. The items that you didn't hit, the barrier to entry. So I personally had a development team over in India, and for a period of time we used Zoom, XOOM. And I know in the last couple of years, Zoom was acquired by PayPal. The immediate, when I saw your company come up last night on the list of pitchers, the immediate question I raised was, why hasn't Zoom gone to Africa? And I did a little bit of research. It looks like Zoom and another company that I see that's popular is TransferWise, and both have do transfers to South Africa, but maybe not to the continent as a whole. So I'd really like to understand how you're differentiated. And then the big boys like a Zoom that's owed by PayPal, why don't they transfer money to the rest of Africa? That was the immediate question that I had raised last night. And then, I would love to understand the competition. I named 2, Zoom and TransferWise. TransferWise is one of the platforms that one of our portfolio companies use to pay contractors abroad. But I just would love to understand not only how you're different than those 2 platforms, but being bigger than you are, why haven't they gone to Africa or Ghana for that matter, since you mentioned that. So that would be my immediate feedback. Chris?
Yeah, I'd start by saying it's certainly a very interesting thing. You've got an impressive background, and I kind of do the same thing as write out the things that I want to hear and see if they get filled in. I think understanding the problem was certainly there. One, the solution was a little bit like opaque to me in the sense that, like, I understood the mobile app, et cetera, but one of the things that I asked myself was, okay, you're targeting X amount of people. How many of them are unbanked? But then how many of them have cell phones, right? Like, I guess my immediate reaction would be, if you live in remote sub-Saharan Africa, do you have a cell? Like, I don't know the answer to that, right? I'm sure that's something that you know a lot better than I do, but is it more accessible to do it via mobile, like, versus a bank?
Yes.
Yeah. So, just having that kind of like data, very easy for me to go, oh, like only 1 million people have a bank account, but 40 million have a cell phone. I'm just making numbers up, but like that helps me put in perspective why mobile is better than, say, a traditional fund transfer or bank. I like the idea of the market size. It was very easy for me to picture how many people we're talking about, the average amount of funds that are flowing, and the fees that are generally generated. I don't know if you're planning on doing a market. I guess how you make money is still a little bit unsure to me, because 9.3 was the percent you quoted. My guess is I couldn't tell if you're trying to beat that and make it cheaper, and therefore technically reduce your market size, or are you going to do the same thing but just make it easier? So I think that's one part of the product. I wasn't sure if it's going to be cheaper or easier. I like the fact that you were really clear about where the product is today and what your next steps are and what 2021 looks like for you. That helps me tremendously understand that. What I didn't understand was the expectation of how that was going to translate into revenue over that time. So one time as an investor, our expectation is we're going to put money in, someone else is going to have to put money in. So not only am I underwriting my money, I'm usually underwriting the next set of money that's going to come in, and I need to make sure that you'll probably hit the kind of metrics that get the next set of money excited. And I'd say just the last comment on it was you had a very specific ask and structure, which was 110,000 of non-voting common equity. And it was 75 cents a share. The two things I couldn't quite get to was, how did you get to the idea of common equity? I mean, I guess you're looking for retail investors, because I would think the average institutional investor is going to balk at the idea of a common equity at this point. And I don't know what 75 cents means from a valuation, like a broader sense valuation. So knowing a price per share is interesting, but knowing how to contextualize that within the value of the overall enterprise is helpful as well. But overall, I think it's interesting. There's a lot of great stuff there. And I think there's enough to pique my interest to, I mean, if it was in my check size range, it would be something that I would be interested in learning more about.
Great, thanks so much. We have about 4 minutes left, so I wanted to give Sandra some time to respond to some of the comments from Chris and Rob.
Okay, yes. Lots of points brought up, so I'm going to attempt to respond to most of them. Yes, the vast majority of the citizens of emerging countries are unbanked, but they have mobile phones, even those in the middle of nowhere. When I lived in Kenya, some of my coworkers had grandmas you couldn't get to because they were so remote, but they were calling on WhatsApp. So mobile phones, that is the reason why mobile phone services created mobile money, because there are more citizens with mobile phones than bank accounts. In terms of the revenue is a percentage of the transfer fee. The 9.3%, the highest in the world, is sub-Saharan Africa. We plan to initially get the fee down to 5%. Initially, it's going to be 7% because of some initial costs, but over time, we want to get it down to 5%. The value that we bring is the fact that we enable customers to not only send money to family members and friends, but to donate to nonprofits that we initially will choose that work to transform lives, to teach people how to cook instead of just giving them food. And this is something that is very attractive to our customer base, which is a segment of the market, those that are expats, those that are immigrants, first and second generation immigrants, students, etc. They're very excited about this. The reason why we came up with the 110,000, I think I mentioned that, but in terms of the valuation, the LPO is a $2 million valuation. The reason why is non-voting, because from talking to advisors and the legal team, most angel investors are not really excited about a small number of small investors. And so going back and forth with the legal team, they advise that it's best to offer this because it's relatively small amounts as non-voting shares. So that's the reason why we decided to do that. Why the others are not in sub-Saharan Africa, if you know any history about that region, Africa is always the last continent that most businesses focus on. They usually go to South Africa first, but when you look at the rest of Africa, all of sub-Saharan Africa, South Africa is the country that is more like Europe than any of the other countries in Africa. So that's why there are some that are in sub-Saharan Africa now. However, this is a huge market that I'm aware of. And so we want to focus on this region first because number one, it has the highest fees, so we can lower the cost. And number two, we can get in and get some traction with our value add before the major players. We also have this patent pending technology that we can use to have conversations with other players about licensing or potentially buying the company at some point in the future.
So Sandra, is there anyone else that's in the other parts of Africa? Any other competitors?
There are other competitors like SendWave is one company. The difference, the value that we provide, many of the customers that we spoke to as part of the customer discovery were aware of SendWave. They do not offer, the value add of enabling customers to put a percentage of the fee into their own account or to nonprofits. This is something that's very attractive to our customer base, and they are willing to pay a premium up to 2% to do just that.
And I think that kind of is a last thing, a lot of great data that you were able to put there, a lot of that probably needs to go in. And I think understanding that point of differentiation with their competition, both the idea that you're going to do it cheaper and that, I would not have my original response to that element of it was like, that seems like a weird feature, like why that seems like complicating, but for you, the ability to explain that that's a real differentiating and important feature to the people who are going to use it and is probably going to attract users is something to kind of pull forward. So, but overall, I think it's super interesting. So I applaud what you're doing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Chris, Rob, thank you guys so much. Sandra, thank you.